The ambulatory space in healthcare, meaning physician clinics and large group practices, is a very interesting one right now. There are tremendous revenue and workforce challenges that this segment of healthcare is facing. I was curious to find out how TigerConnect, a company that is well established in the acute and hospital segment, was helping these physician practices. I also wanted to learn more about their scheduling solution, which can help automate a notoriously difficult and manual process. Welcome to Healthcare IT Today, where we explore the latest healthcare technology trends and discover valuable insights in health IT. I'm Colin Hung, and I had the chance recently to sit down with Justin Wampach, Vice President of Scheduling at TigerConnect. Here is our conversation. So Justin, TigerConnect is a well-established company in the acute care segment. You work with a lot of hospitals. How does TigerConnect help in the ambulatory or physician practice segment?
Sure. Excellent. Thank you. TigerConnect physician scheduling really started out in the ambulatory space. So scheduling physicians for on-call, for vacation time off, for other assignments that are going on within the practices, was really the foundation that we began building the scheduling software on. Once the schedule is built and the doctors know what they're doing, am I in clinic, am I on call? If I'm in clinic, what location? If I'm on call, what hospital am I at? Things like that. Building that schedule, although it sounds pretty easy because you're scheduling for doctors, right? Usually has a lot of rules and a lot of things that are required in order to make that a schedule that would be palatable to the doctors. So that's really where we started, and have actually quite a bit of experience in that side.
So Justin, how valuable is it to have the physician schedule tied or interwoven with the internal communications platform, which TigerConnect provides?
Sure. Well, it depends. It depends how often you want to be communicating with the right person. As soon as we introduced role-based communication, where now you don't need to try to find the individual person to have the conversation with, right? As these organizations have gotten larger and these medical staff sizes have gotten bigger, or in a large academic medical center, you don't know the cardiologist, you don't know, the orthopedist that's on call. And so now, being able to say, I just need the orthopedist on call. I'm really not that concerned who it is. I just need the message to go to the right person. I think that's where it's just become paramount, right? So because of the adds, moves, and changes, and because of the size of these organizations, not knowing who isn't a bad thing anymore. Now you really don't need to know, and you really don't care. We just want to make sure that the right person is in the role at the right time, so that we're always messaging the right people. So really, from TigerConnect standpoint, it's mission critical. It's table stakes, right? To make sure that we're scheduling people and getting them in the right roles. As opposed to having to do it manually. The old way of doing it was a doctor or a nurse would go in and they would swipe in and say, okay, I'm covering this role. That works. But, again, these are busy people. And when someone doesn't swipe in, it breaks the whole system. It breaks the whole paradigm. So we really want to take some of those items that could potentially break the whole paradigm and just automate that entire process to make it so that it's really easy for the providers. They automatically come in and come out of those shifts and don't have to do any extra work. It just notifies them, hey, you're on call now, or you're all done with call.
If a physician practice doesn't have a solution like TigerConnect's for scheduling, how are they typically doing it? Is it a spreadsheet, or is it paper and Post-it notes?
Yeah, we actually still see both. We see paper schedules that literally are somebody going into like a calendar creator or going to Google and finding, January or February 2022, 23, downloading a blank calendar and literally, putting names in there. That is a little less than we used to. We used to, back, 20 years ago, that was everybody. Now we see a lot more stuff in Excel and some stuff in Word But definitely out of date as soon as it's created, and it's sitting on somebody's desk and the doctors don't know, and it makes it hard to trade and swap. I mean, it's just the the people that you're scheduling, as we've looked at it, they just deserve better. They deserve more, considering the role that they play in the organization, the amount of revenue that they generate. And so having some basic tools that allows them to surface that on their phones and just makes it easier for them. It's just kind of a no-brainer today.
When you say automate the schedule, Justin, what does that mean? Like, what does that truly entail?
Yeah, I think a lot of it means, most of the providers today all have rules and exceptions and things that they want in order for them to consider the schedule fair and good. It may be the number of days between an assignment. It may be how often you get that assignment. It may be what is before or what's after that assignment that they all have preferences on. So as we look at automating the schedule, it's not just scheduling somebody, but it's taking all of those individual things into consideration, as well as potentially like contract hours and fairness and equity and seniority, and taking all of that stuff into consideration, and then trying to figure out who's the best person to put in this shift or in this slot on this day. So, automation isn't always just pushing a button and having everything done for you. I mean, that's what everyone drives towards, but automation for a lot of the organizations is just making sure that the rules and that the elements of the schedule are really followed. And that may be an iterative process. A lot of our customers use our scheduling assistant, which is literally the push buttons, automatically schedule people as a layer. And then they may go back and they may layer like that. That may be the on-call layer. Then they may go back and they may use our template scheduler for clinic assignments and for daily assignments. And then they may do some manual scheduling, for adds, moves, and changes. So, automation is usually a layer of the schedule. I don't know that anyone has it where you just click a button and the schedule is done. That's kind of pie in the sky still today.
I'm curious, Justin, are the practices that are interested in your solution more interested in the efficiency gains from not having to work in spreadsheets anymore? Or is it more that they were looking to create more fair and equitable schedules? In other words, what's the main driver for adopting or the interest in a scheduling solution like yours?
Sure, that's a good question. I think if you're talking to a scheduler, so the actual user that does the schedule, I think what they're going to tell you is that things have gotten so complex that it's virtually impossible for them to create a schedule without missing things, without missing some of those rules and those preferences. And when you miss those things, the cascading effect is throughout the entire schedule, which really then forces you to almost start from scratch. And again, because of the type of person that you're scheduling, it's not as if you can say, oh, they'll be fine, we'll just change it next time, right? These aren't burger cookers and fry cookers and things. These are physicians that will come back and say, no, I won't work that, or I won't do that, or I can't do that, right? That the job that I'm being scheduled for and then what you have me on next for doesn't allow me enough time to rest or allow me enough time to do things. So I think that's what the schedulers would say, is that I just can't, keep track of this stuff. I need help simplifying it. I think if you're an administrator and you're buying the software, you're really looking for something that's going to generate a repeatable process, because so much of this stuff is in schedulers' heads. And a lot of these schedulers are real senior people within the organization. So they're not your entry level person that's going to now be there for the next 20 years. They're people that have been with the organization for 20 years. And so the administration is like, geez, what would happen if that person got sick, or they got COVID, or they got hit by, the whole proverbial got hit by a bus? All of that knowledge would be lost. And so it's process stuff for the administrators, and it's really tools to help them simplify and manage the process if you're a scheduler. And if you're a doctor, if you're the third kind of persona in there, you just need something in your smartphone. You just want to know where to go without having to go and look for something, or without having to call somebody. You know what I mean? Like you just want simple, easy access to that information that's actually accurate in real time. And so our software, we really try to meet all three of those personas, and try to have tools that kind of satisfy all three of those.
Justin, the way you describe the physician scheduling makes me think of the complexity involved in creating the NHL hockey schedule and how they have all these parameters that they have to factor in, like not having someone play one night on the West Coast and the next night on the East Coast, and also making sure that each team plays each other a certain number of times. There's no way that an individual can keep all of those parameters in their head. And I can imagine that physician scheduling has a lot of these similar rules, right? Like not having someone work back to back on weekends on call, not assigning someone to a triple shift, et cetera. It sounds like your solution allows for the input of these types of rules and parameters, so that it's easier to manage and create schedules in your system.
Yeah, exactly. And here's what's interesting, Colin. We still see a really large percentage of schedulers being physicians. And the reason why is because the schedules have become so complex that the entry level people not only can't do it, but when they do it wrong, the ramifications are pretty severe. And so they're like, I don't want to do this job anymore. I'll go somewhere else and do something else where if I make a mistake, I'm not going to be jumped on by, 12 other providers. And so it's gotten so challenging, and it's gotten so complex that in a lot of these organizations, you will hear doctors say, we create the schedule for the doctors because nobody else understands not only how difficult this is, but how tough it is to do one of these assignments. Like these are, it's not like being on call for an IT company, right? Where like myself, if I'm on call, I may get a call from a customer saying, hey, I can't get this, or I can't access this, or I can't do this. If I'm a cardiologist or a neurologist and I'm on call, or an OB, I'm getting called in to do something that, is at the top of my practice level.
Sure.
These aren't really small things. These are important things. And so being on call as a cardiologist or neurologist is, the type of work that you're doing is just, it's important. And so we want to make sure that every assignment is important. Every one of those slots is important. So for a lot of folks, we really have to make sure that we get the right people in there, and that we get people that understand how important these assignments are, and that there's a patient and a person and a loved one behind every one of those. So,
is there a type of practice, or do practices need to be at a particular maturity level, or is there a certain type of need that would make them a good candidate for a more robust scheduling solution like the one you offer?
yeah, I think if you have the type of practice where occasionally the wrong doctors are getting called, I mean, that's probably the first systemic indication of some pain, right? That someone that's not on call is getting called and is getting bothered. Another one would be that you've got providers that are thinking that things aren't fair. So if there's 10 of us, Colin, if you and I are both cardiologists and we have 8 partners and there's 10 of us, unfairness can lead to a doctor leaving, because the doctors can practice anywhere. And when it takes, $100,000 or $200,000 to recruit a doctor because they perceive something as unfair, like that's a major, major, major issue. So unfairness, the wrong doctors getting called, people just generally not being happy about how they're working, those are all really good signs that we look for as we're discovering customers, to just see, really how bad the pain is, because that all of those are signs of pain. But you have to have enough pain in order to want to switch, because this isn't, it's not that it's difficult to switch, but there's work involved. And, going from a manual system to an automated system requires change, and change is hard. And so there has to be enough pain in the organization for the doctors and for everybody to be okay with change.
I really like the point you made there, Justin, about how an unfair schedule might drive clinical staff away, and how complaints about an unfair schedule is a sign that you might need something better to do your scheduling versus a spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I mean, Excel is a great tool. The problem is, it's a blank square, and it allows. Unfortunately, you have the ability for the wrong thing to happen, because you can put anything in there. There's little validation, and so I think that's really where, as care has gotten more complex, as there's been more of a demand on physicians to see more patients and to do less administrative things. We just really need to be cautious of how we're scheduling people, because again, there's real stuff behind this. It's not just somebody sitting, answering a call from a customer that can't get their email. It's just so different than that. So
I want to thank Justin for spending time with me today to talk about scheduling and how practices can benefit from something more robust and more automated than a spreadsheet. If you are hearing about unfair schedules in your organization, it might be time to look at upgrading to something like TigerConnect's scheduling solution. Also, if you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you're listening and watching this. Also, head on over to healthcareitttoday.com, where you can access free resources, industry news, and insightful articles. You can also connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag #HITSM. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for being here.